All right, so I'm back with another video today. This video is going over some more Banadir fragrances that I have here. So these are fragrances, some of them have been sent to me and some of them I actually purchased myself. But obviously my opinions will be my own on each one of these fragrances. This video was actually supposed to come out last week. I actually recorded it last week, and there was some issues with the video while I was going through like the editing process that kind of had me needing to do the video all over again, and I just didn't have enough time to re-record and re-edit the video and get it out to you all last week. So I'm going to be recording this video and releasing it this current week. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first fragrance that I'm going to be going over here, and actually I'm just going to list these fragrances out and then we'll kind of go over them afterwards. But the first fragrance is number 5, which this is Banadir's take on Chanel's Coco Mademoiselle. So that is number 5. And then we have number 17. 17 is going to be their take on Gris Dior from Dior. We've got number 21, which 21, this one is their take on Louis Vuitton's Lovers. You've got 36, which 36 is their take on Stronger With You, the EDT, I believe. 37, which is their take on YSL's Myslf EDP. So that one, and then we've got number 16, which is their take on Oud For Greatness from Initio. And then the last one is number 34, which 34 is their take on Creed Silver Mountain Water. All right, so I'm going to start off with number 5. So this one was the Coco Mademoiselle from Chanel. Obviously it's a women's fragrance, but this fragrance, I mean, to me, it doesn't come across like super. I mean, I guess I can definitely see how this would absolutely be like a feminine fragrance, but I don't know, maybe I'm too used to smelling unisex style scents. I mean, I feel like maybe if you're a guy who's, pretty secure with himself, you could still probably rock this one and it would still probably smell good on you. It's a very kind of fruity floral type of scent. So the pear in this is, I would say, one of the main things that you get. It's a very kind of realistic smelling pear, is at least what I'm getting from the Banadir version. Now, how this compares to the original Chanel, I can't say in this video because I ordered a sample of Coco Mademoiselle. I actually ordered it with I ordered it with 2 other samples that I actually did for some other videos that I did recently, and they didn't send me my sample of the Coco Mademoiselle. So I still need to get a sample of that again and, really kind of do like a side by side between this and the original. But I would say, I mean, so far, this does smell super high quality. Like I said, the pear in this smells really, really good. Like it definitely gives you the vibe of like biting into like a freshly cut pear. And like I said, there's definitely like some floral notes in this as well. Very kind of musky. It definitely kind of has like that sort of signature musky type of feel that you get from most, Chanel fragrances. I just can't tell you if it has the same quality of musk that's in the original Chanel, because that's normally something that a lot of interpretations of Chanel fragrances can, they can't really get it down 100%, because whatever Chanel is using is something that's proprietary more than likely and exclusive to them. But I mean, overall, this is definitely a pretty nice scent. This would absolutely be something that I would gift to a friend or something like that, like a female friend, or my mother or sister. Like this would be, you know, for sure one of those types of scents. So again, man, definitely I would say check out number 5 from Banadir. Performance wise, this also lasts a pretty long time as well. So performance, the one time that I did kind of wear this on my arm, it was definitely still there through like an entire work shift. So at least 8 hours is what you're gonna get, you know, longevity wise with this. And projection wise, I can't say whether or not this is stronger or weaker than the Chanel. It is definitely a scent. I would say it's not like the most sort of beast mode style scent for sure, which at the same time, I don't really feel like it needs to be either. It gives you at least, I would say, about an arm's length or so of projection for like the first hour and a half, and then it does kind of, you know, dial back after that. But I feel like for what this is, you know, like a fruity, floral, musky style scent, this does still perform pretty well. All right. So again, man, definitely check out number 5 from Banadir. All right, next one on the list, this one is number 21. So again, this is the interpretation of Louis Vuitton's Lovers. And this, I would say so far, this probably has been the best Louis Vuitton Lovers interpretation that I've smelled. Now, the only other one that I have smelled was the Joe Milano Opal. And that one, I felt like Lovers blew Opal like out of the water. I can't say that with this one. I will say that I do still slightly prefer the Lovers over this one. And the reason for that is this, for the most part, it kind of does everything that, you know, Lovers does in terms of the scent profile, except to me, this is slightly kind of lacking some of those sort of spicy notes that you get from Lovers. So Lovers has like this mix of like different spicy notes that it has in it. And the way that it's blended into Lovers, it's like, it's not like overly spicy. It's like just right. And I feel like with this fragrance, the spices are there, but they're not as prominent as what they are in Lovers. You know, which again, for me, I prefer the way that it's done in Lovers for sure. But I would still say that this is still at least probably like a good 92 to 95% close to, you know, Louis Vuitton's Lovers. That's the biggest difference that I noticed, was just the spices were missing, but you are still getting like that really sort of bright citrusy opening, you know, that you get from Lovers. You're still getting that with this. You're still getting, you know, kind of like that slightly like Santal 33, you know, sandalwood type of vibe that you get with Lovers as well. Except, you know, the sandalwood in this and in Lovers is nowhere near like as creamy and as warm as what it is in Santal 33. This seems more of sort of like a fresher style, like a fresher, citrusier, brighter style, you know, sandalwood. So it doesn't come across like super warm and creamy, you know, both again in Lovers and in this fragrance. This is also, I would say, noticeably stronger than Lovers is. And I mean, I think for some people, you know, that may be a bad thing. For some, that may be a good thing. For me, I have to definitely kind of dial back my sprays of this fragrance, because if I spray this on like 6 or 7 times, it will become like cloying and headache inducing for me. So for me, this is more of sort of like a 4 spray, maybe 5 maximum. But I would say definitely closer to 4 for me is really all I need. And, you know, this definitely lasts well past 12 hours. Like I would say over 6 feet of projection for like the first 2.5 hours or so. Like this is a very potent and very accurate interpretation of Lovers for sure. Like I said, the spices though, I think that's the main thing that's sort of missing in this fragrance compared to Lovers. But everything else, I think outside of that is super close to Lovers. So I really do enjoy this one a lot. Like I said, I just kind of have to dial back my sprays on it. So, you know, again, closeness rating, I would say about 95%, 92 to 95% or so. Overall rating on this, I would give it like a solid 8 out of 10. Lovers is still kind of like a scent profile that I'm still trying to, you know, kind of get used to. I do absolutely think that this is more wearable than something like Santal 33 for sure. You know, when it comes to like really sandalwood heavy fragrances. But, you know, again, if you're someone who, you know, kind of feels like this gives off like pickle juice types of vibes and that's not at all what you like, then I would say, you know, definitely stay away from this. But this is, in my opinion, a much more wearable, you know, sandalwood style fragrance for sure. So again, man, check out Banadir's number 21. All right, next one on the list. This one is Banadir number 17. So number 17, this one is going to be Banadir's interpretation of Gris Dior. So this was actually an interpretation that I could say I preferred over the original. I definitely prefer this over something like, you know, Maison Alhambra's Gris as well. That really kind of like sharp, cold bergamot note that you get from Gris Dior, that is very prominent in this fragrance, and it actually, to me, it kind of holds on to that a little bit longer than what Gris Dior does. With Gris Dior, you know, you do get that for a considerable amount of time, but in Gris Dior, that starts to turn a little bit more sort of muskier, in my opinion, in the original. In this, the musk to me is dialed back a little bit more. And so because of that, you get like a longer lasting, like sharper, more piercing, you know, kind of cold bergamot sort of feel from this fragrance, which I actually do like and prefer over the original fragrance. This is also, I would say, considerably like stronger than what Gris Dior is. Not to the point where it's like cloying or anything like that, or where it like completely changes like the texture of the fragrance and the experience, but it's slightly different for sure. But, you know, again, in my opinion, different in a good way is what I would say. I don't know. I feel like this fragrance compared to Gris Dior, and I mean, Gris Dior to me is a very unisex scent. Maybe some people might consider it to be slightly kind of feminine leaning, but I think for me anyway, this definitely is, you know, it's even more unisex in my opinion than what something like Gris Dior is. You know, just the way that this fragrance is done. So again, I really do enjoy this one. You know, if you like that really sort of crisp bergamot that you get from Gris Dior, I would say absolutely pick this one up. And I mean, while you still do get like the sort of mossy, you know, patchouli type of mix that you get from Gris Dior as well, you still get that in this fragrance. Again, you're getting that with, I would say, the musk turned down that you would get from Gris Dior, and that sort of, you know, that cold kind of crisp metallic sort of bergamot note dialed up and, you know, longer lasting in number 17. So a really, really nice twist, man. Performance again on this is very good. You know, I get well past 8 hours of total longevity with this. And I would say about, you know, an arm's length or so of projection for like the first hour and a half to 2 hours. All right. So again, definitely check this one out. I would say this closeness wise is probably about, I would say 85% Gris Dior, like 80 to 85%. So again, it's not like the closest Gris Dior interpretation, but it is, in my opinion, slightly better than Gris Dior. And then in terms of my overall rating on this, I would say this is definitely a 9 out of 10. You do have to like Chypre style fragrances to like this scent profile in general. So I would say if you don't like those types of fragrances, then definitely stay away from this one. But if you're into those, this is a very, very nice scent, man. So again, check out number 17 from Banadir. All right, next one on the list. This one is number 16. This one is their take on Oud For Greatness from Initio. Now this one is definitely very high quality and close for sure. I would say this definitely has better quality than something like, you know, Lattafa's Oud For Glory. For sure, this is higher quality than that. Slightly higher quality even than the Glorious Oud from Fragrance World or French Avenue. What I will say though is the vibe that I get from this fragrance compared to the original is the original to me seemed like a little bit warmer than what this did. And this fragrance, and I mean, I'm going to say this and this may throw some people off. I don't mean this, I guess, in a bad way, but to me, this has a slight sort of damp sort of feeling to it compared to the original anyway. I don't think that it necessarily, like, it doesn't completely change like the wearing experience necessarily or make it like a totally different scent. I'm able to notice it when I'm smelling the two side by side up close though. This has like it has a slightly sort of damp, you know, feeling to it. You're still getting, you know, the mixture of like the saffron, the lavender, the spices, you know, the oud that you get from Oud For Glory. And it does smell, like I said, very high quality. I would say easily higher quality than, you know, some of the more popular interpretations of it. And I mean, also considering the price, like, you know, between $40 and $45 for this 100 ml, I would say this is one of the best sort of quality to price ratio interpretations of Oud For Greatness that you can get. Because to me, this is going to be up there with like interpretations like Oud Diction from Alexandria Fragrances. I felt like their interpretation was pretty close as well. This is going to be right up there with that. This also is pretty beast mode for sure. So this will be a scent that, you know, when you spray it on, it is going to, you know, fill up a room. But what I will say is I don't think that this is as strong as like the initial batches of Oud For Greatness were. Like I remember getting a sample of Oud For Greatness like back in the day. Like this was probably back in like 2019, I want to say. I remember spraying that like maybe like 1 or 2 times from a sample sprayer on my arm, and like it smelled like I drowned, like I bathed in Oud For Greatness. Like that stuff was super strong. The sample that I have now of Oud For Greatness doesn't give me that same sort of like nuclear sort of cloud. You know, it doesn't really do that for me, and neither does this. So I don't know, it does kind of seem like maybe Oud For Greatness has been like reformulated. I know like a lot of like Parfums de Marly and like even Initio fragrances have been reformulated over the years. So I'm guessing more than likely, you know, Oud For Greatness has been as well. It still is a very strong scent, but yeah, like I said, this definitely is not as strong as like what I remembered the original batches being, which I think is really, it's a good thing, because those batches, like I said, they were super strong in your face. And I mean, I guess if that's what you're looking for, you know, maybe you might be disappointed with something like this. But I think this has enough strength to where, you know, you can still smell it all day long. The longevity is going to be well past, you know, 10 to 12 hours or so. And it is still going to give you decent enough projection to where you're going to be able to smell this for well past like 2.5 hours or so on yourself. It's just not going to, it's not going to be like headache inducing or cloying is, you know, I guess the main thing that I want to say about how it performs. In terms of the closeness, even though I feel like it has like a slightly more like damper sort of, you know, smell to it, this to me is still at least like 95% close in my opinion to Oud For Greatness. So still super close. And then, I mean, as far as my overall rating goes for this, I would say it's easily like an 8 out of 10. Oud For Greatness, I would say I definitely prefer Hautane over Oud For Greatness for sure. To me, Hautane is the more wearable type of scent, you know, within that sort of scent profile. But you know, this is still pretty good, man. So I would definitely still recommend this as a Oud For Greatness interpretation. So again, check out number 16 from Banadir. All right, next one on the list. This one I would say was easily like my favorite, you know, fragrance out of this bunch. This one is number 34. So number 34, this is again their take on Silver Mountain Water. This is an amazing interpretation of Silver Mountain Water. I will say that for parts of like the opening of the original Creed, I felt like the Creed had maybe a slightly better blend, like especially after like the first couple of minutes. There was a point where probably between minutes 5 through 10, I would say the Creed to me had like a slightly better blend quality to it than what this did. But this is still like considerably better than something like Club de Nuit Sillage. Like you can definitely tell that this is higher quality, this is better blended. No sort of alcohol blast at all. And you're getting that same sort of like sharp, almost metallic, you know, smelling opening that you get from Silver Mountain Water. I know like back in the day, people kind of used to say that Silver Mountain Water smelled almost inky, you know, in the opening. I used to kind of like, I guess, tell myself that that's what it smelled like. But, you know, for me anyway, smelling it now, I really don't get like the vibe of ink from, you know, Silver Mountain Water when you first spray it on. It just smells kind of like citrusy and like really sharp citrusy and like metallic. It is I would say kind of like the best way for me to describe how it smells initially. Now, one thing that I will say is this compared to Silver Mountain Water, especially after probably like that 5 to 10 minute mark, is I feel like this came across slightly more like tangier and tart. And to me, it's coming from like the black currant. This to me smells a little bit more black currant heavy than what Silver Mountain Water does. Silver Mountain Water to me, it has like a kind of like an even blend of like black currant, like mandarin orange. I want to say like some other citruses like bergamot. It has kind of like a very nice even blend of those. With this, you're still definitely getting like those citruses, like the mandarin and like the bergamot. And I think even like some lemon. But with this, you're getting like a slightly heavier emphasis on like a really kind of like tart, tangy sort of black currant. I like it for sure. I don't think that it changes much, you know, of like the scent profile at all. But it is definitely something that's a little bit noticeable when you smell this side by side with Silver Mountain Water. Now, also the other thing, you know, with this is this also seems to be considerably more like stronger than Silver Mountain Water. So like when you start to get into like the dry down to Silver Mountain Water with like the green tea, the white florals and stuff like that, that seems to, you know, kind of push you know, a lot more with this fragrance than what it does Silver Mountain Water. The Silver Mountain Water, to me, after probably like the first hour and a half or so, it's a very, very like weak kind of skin scent type of fragrance. Whereas with this to me, it more so kind of performs like as strong as what something like Armaf's Club de Nuit Sillage does, but just with better quality is what I would say. So, you know, this is definitely going to be a much better performing interpretation of Silver Mountain Water. Again, with very, very high quality for sure. Now, again, as far as the performance goes on this, I would say projection wise, this is like double what Silver Mountain Water is for the most part. So, you know, I tend to get well over arm's length of projection with this for like the first probably 2.5 hours. And then longevity wise, this is going to be well over 8 hours. All right. So a very, very solid interpretation. I think for what you pay for this, you know, that $40 to $45 mark, I really don't think you can get better than this, you know, accuracy wise and quality wise. So again, I would definitely recommend number 34. In terms of the closeness rating on this I would say is, again, easily like 95% close to Silver Mountain Water. Like I said, it does have that slight sort of difference in terms of, you know, like projection and stuff like that. And then also it does come across slightly more tangier and tart from the blackcurrant, or the heavier emphasis on blackcurrant anyway, but it's still a very, very good scent, man. As for my overall rating on this, easily a 9.5 out of 10. I'm a fan of Silver Mountain Water, so that's why this ranks pretty highly for me for my overall rating. Obviously, if you're not a fan of Silver Mountain Water, then you probably won't like this fragrance, but it's definitely one of my favorite sort of like citrusy, fresh, you know, floral types of scents for the most part. All right. So again, man, definitely check out Banadir's number 34. All right, and so then the next one on the list, this one is number 37. So 37 is their take again on YSL's Myslf, the EDP. This is very, very, very good. I would say this is better than the Fragrance World. What is it? Oneself. This to me is like, it's super close to YSL Myslf. You know, it definitely starts off the same way with like the sort of fresh bergamot opening mixed with like the orange blossom. Smells very kind of fresh and clean. Very mass appealing. This is, you know, it is for sure, in my opinion, a little bit better than Myslf, or not Myself, than Oneself. The Oneself, like as I've started to wear that one more and more, and you know, kind of compare it with this, I feel like Oneself, it kind of, the dry down comes a little bit sooner in Oneself than what it does in this fragrance. In the 37, I feel like what you get like from the opening and the mid of, you know, YSL's Myslf, it kind of hangs on to that a little bit longer than, you know, what it does in Oneself and even in Myslf. Because to me, you know, Myslf, as it starts to dry down, at least on my skin anyway, it almost starts to smell slightly kind of like vanillic to me. It's really the best way for me to kind of describe it. Whereas with this, I feel like this holds on to like that freshness from like the bergamot and like the orange blossom. It holds on to that a lot longer, you know, than what the original does, or even the Oneself. So, you know, this also, I think, has like the same amount of brightness and strength that the original does for sure. So I think that's what makes this a little bit better than what, you know, Oneself is. And this, for the most part, is, I want to say, like around like the same price as what you can get Oneself for. I think Oneself typically goes for like around $40. If not, it may be a little bit less, like around 30 to 35. But you know, again, this does smell a little bit more higher quality, and it lasts longer than Oneself. So for me, this lasts well past 12 hours for sure, you know, for the total longevity. As for the projection, it does project a little bit better than what Oneself does. I would say definitely closer to Myslf. Like as I've started to, you know, test Oneself more with Myslf, I can say that Myslf is a little stronger than what Oneself is. And this is definitely more along the lines of like the strength of Myslf. All right. So, you know, for me, I would say if I have to choose between this and Oneself, I would definitely choose this over Oneself. Oneself is definitely still pretty solid for an interpretation. So if you don't have access to Banadir fragrances, then that would be the next best thing that I would recommend to you. But for anyone that does, you know, have access to being able to, you know, get their hands on Banadir fragrances, I think so far this has been the best Myslf interpretation that I've smelled. And it seems like they're really doing good with the YSL interpretation so far. So again, man, definitely check out number 37. As for my, you know, closeness rating on this fragrance, this one I would say is easily like a 98, you know, percent, almost like a 1-to-1 for the most part. And then for my overall rating on this is easily like a 9 out of 10. I do enjoy the Myslf, you know, scent profile. So that's why, again, that rating is high on that. But yeah, man, again, this is basically YSL myself kind of rebottled and sold for a lot less. All right. So again, check out number 37 from Banadir. All right, and then the next one on the list, this one is number 36. So 36, this is their take on Stronger With You, the EDT. And this is also pretty close as well. This, I would say, is about 90% close or so. I felt like the sort of like chestnut sort of feel that you get from the original, it came across a little bit, you know, more, I would say, better blended in the original fragrance than what this did. Now, this may also need to, you know, kind of sit and maturate a little bit more. So that may be the case. This also too, like the citrus in the opening that you get from this fragrance compared to like the original seems to be slightly more tart in number 36. And I mean, I think that's overall, that's something that I've kind of noticed with a lot of the Banadir fragrances, especially, you know, fragrances that have, you know, citruses in them, is it seems like the citruses in the Banadir fragrances tend to come across slightly more kind of like tart than like the original fragrance. I don't know if it's like something with like the materials that are being used in these fragrances. In some cases, it can kind of change the, you know, sort of overall feel of the fragrance. I don't really feel like that's the case with this one. This definitely still smells like, you know, in my opinion, Stronger With You. So, you know, for me, I think this is still going to be one of those really kind of like fresh, but yet at the same time spicy and warm style, you know, like fall, springtime scents. I would even say this is still something that you could probably wear like, you know, in the summertime at night, you know, on a cooler summer night. And it's definitely, it's like, to me, date night types of vibes, date night vibes. Even I would even say this is still kind of like a casual style scent as well. But yeah, man, super close to the original scent. I just think that the original scent, the way that it comes across is a little bit smoother and not as sort of tart as what this comes across as, but still pretty good, man. Performance on this is also pretty good as well. So I mean, each time that I've worn this, I've gotten well past 10 hours. And in terms of like the projection on this, the projection to me is not as good as what the original fragrance was. So with the original, that one definitely, it jumped off my skin pretty well, well past the arm's length. Whereas I feel like with this to me is only like around an arm's length or a little bit less. So yeah, I mean, I would say the performance on it is still going to be pretty fine. It's just not, projection wise, it's not as good as the original is. As for like the closeness rating on this again, I would say is about 90% close. And then I would give this, for an overall rating, like about a 7.5 out of 10. Not because it's a bad scent or anything like that. Just for me, the Stronger With You, scent profile in general, I'm just not like the biggest fan of it. So that's really why, I would say. But I think if you are somebody who likes Stronger With You, but you're looking for like a really cheap but high quality, affordable, alternative, then I would definitely say that 36 from Banadir is, a really good choice, man. So that is pretty much, that's the list, man. I know a lot of people think that I'm just trying to like shill these Banadir fragrances. But I think the truth about these fragrances are extremely good. Most of them are. All right. Now, there's been, some scents from Banadir that I felt like weren't necessarily, up to par. But for the most part, most of the scents that I've smelled from them have not been misses at all. All right. So, they're definitely a brand now, in terms of interpretations go, that I do trust, the same way that I trust brands like, French Avenue, for instance, or like Alexandria fragrances. So, I mean, even with Alexandria, not all of their fragrances are, slam dunks. Some of their fragrances do tend to be misses. That's just the nature, I think, of clones or interpretation houses is, you could have probably, I would say a good clone house is probably going to have like at least probably like a 70 to 80% success rate, with interpretations. And I would definitely say that so far Banadir is well within that range, if not, possibly exceeding that. All right. So again, man, definitely let me know what you all think about these fragrances. If you all have actually smelled any of these, if so, what do you all think about them, and how close do they come, in your opinion, to the original fragrances? Also, I'll have links in the description to where you can pick these up. And again, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.